There is a teaching in Buddhism so profound, so liberating, that when truly understood, it dissolves the anxious grip we hold on life itself. This teaching whispers a truth that our modern minds struggle to accept. What is yours will come to you, and what is not yours will naturally fall away. Not through force, not through desperate clinging, not through endless striving, but through a deeper understanding of how life actually unfolds. The Buddha observed this truth beneath the Bodhi tree 25 centuries ago. He saw that our suffering does not arise from what happens to us, but from our relationship with what happens. We grasp at experiences we want to keep. We push away experiences we want to avoid. We exhaust ourselves trying to control a river that was never meant to be controlled. And in this endless struggle, we miss the profound peace that comes from understanding impermanence, from releasing our grip, from trusting the natural unfolding of our lives. This teaching is not about passivity or resignation. It is not about giving up on our dreams or abandoning our responsibilities. Rather, it is about discovering a radically different way of engaging with life, one rooted in wisdom rather than fear, in trust rather than control, in presence rather than constant striving. When we truly understand that what is ours will come, we stop exhausting ourselves in futile battles against reality. We begin to live from a place of deep inner alignment, where our actions flow naturally from clarity rather than from the frantic energy of attachment. The foundation of wisdom, understanding impermanence. Through meditation, we discover what the Buddha called anicca, the truth of impermanence. This is not merely an intellectual concept to memorize, but a living reality to be experienced in every moment of our existence. Everything that arises will pass away. Every sensation in your body, every thought crossing your mind, every emotion flooding your heart, every relationship in your life, every circumstance you find yourself in, all of it is in constant motion, constantly changing, never staying the same for even 2 consecutive moments. Ancient wisdom teaches us that our suffering stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of reality. We see the world as solid, permanent, and controllable. We believe that if we just work hard enough, plan carefully enough, hold on tightly enough, we can freeze certain moments in time, preserve certain experiences forever, guarantee certain outcomes. But this belief crashes against the true nature of existence. The Buddha understood that this collision between our desire for permanence and the actual impermanence of all things is the root of our deepest suffering. Think of a flower blooming in spring. From a tiny bud, it unfolds into radiant beauty, its petals soft and fragrant. For a few days, perhaps a week, it displays its glory. Then the petals begin to fade, to wilt, to fall. Eventually, nothing remains but the stem, and even that will decompose, returning to the earth from which it came. This is not tragedy. This is simply the nature of things. The flower's beauty was never diminished by its temporary nature. In fact, its impermanence is what made each moment of its blooming so precious. Your emotions follow this same pattern. A wave of anger rises, peaks, and dissolves. A moment of joy appears, brightens your world, and fades. Even the deepest grief, though it may return in waves, is not a permanent state. If you observe carefully through meditation, you will notice that no emotion maintains the same intensity for more than a few moments. It arises, transforms, and passes away, making room for whatever comes next. The nature of mind reveals this truth even more clearly. Watch your thoughts for just 60 seconds. Notice how they arise from nowhere, dance across your awareness, and dissolve back into silence. You did not create them through effort. You cannot hold on to them through willpower. They come and go, according to causes and conditions far beyond your control. This constant arising and passing is not a problem to be solved. It is the fundamental rhythm of existence itself. When you accept the ephemeral nature of life, something remarkable happens. The fear that drives so much of your behavior begins to dissolve. You realize that you cannot lose what was never truly yours to possess. You cannot fail at what was never meant to be forced. You cannot ruin what is already in the process of natural transformation. This understanding brings a profound sense of freedom, a lightness that no amount of control could ever provide. Understanding impermanence does not mean becoming indifferent to life. Rather, it means engaging with life more fully, more presently, more authentically. When you know that this moment with your loved one will never come again in exactly this way, you pay attention more deeply. When you understand that your current difficulty is not a permanent condition, you stop identifying with it so completely. When you recognize that both pleasure and pain are temporary visitors, you stop clinging to one and resisting the other with such desperation. The Buddha taught that all conditioned things share three characteristics. They are impermanent, they are incapable of providing lasting satisfaction, and they lack an independent, unchanging essence. These three marks of existence point to a liberating truth. If everything is constantly changing, if nothing provides permanent satisfaction, if there is no solid, separate self to protect, then what exactly are we defending so fiercely? What are we so afraid of losing? What belongs to you will come not because you deserve it or earned it, but because the causes and conditions have aligned in such a way that it naturally arrives. What does not belong to you will dissolve, not because you failed or are unworthy, but because the causes and conditions that brought it into being have changed. This is not fatalism. This is understanding the profound interconnectedness of all things, the vast web of causation that brings every experience into being, releasing desire and control. The path to liberation. The problem is not in wanting something. Humans naturally desire comfort, connection, meaning, and beauty. These desires are part of our nature as conscious beings. The problem, the Buddha taught, lies in our attachment to these desires, in our desperate clinging to outcomes, in our belief that our happiness depends on getting what we want and avoiding what we do not want. This is the second noble truth. The origin of suffering is craving, the compulsive thirst that drives us to grasp at experiences as if our very existence depends on them. Compulsive desire operates like a fire that consumes everything in its path, always hungry, never satisfied. You achieve one goal, and before you can truly savor it, your mind has already moved on to the next thing you must have. You acquire what you thought would make you happy, only to discover that the satisfaction lasts barely longer than the excitement of obtaining it. Then the fear sets in, the fear of losing what you have gained, the anxiety that someone else might have something better, the worry that this pleasant state will not last. Forcing what does not belong to your path is like trying to stop a river with your hands. You might redirect a small portion of the flow temporarily, but the river's essential movement cannot be controlled by your individual will. It flows according to gravity, according to the landscape, according to forces far larger than your personal desires. When you try to force outcomes through sheer willpower, ignoring the natural flow of circumstances, you create tremendous suffering for yourself and often for others as well. There is a crucial distinction that changes everything. Attachment masquerades as love, but it is actually fear wearing love's clothing. When you are attached to someone, you do not love them freely. You need them to be a certain way to feel secure. You cling to them because you believe your well-being depends on their continued presence, their approval, their behavior. This kind of relationship creates suffering for everyone involved because it places impossible demands on impermanent things. Letting go, by contrast, is the courage to trust life's flow. It does not mean you stop caring or that you become passive in your relationships. It means you love without the desperate need to possess, without the fear of inevitable change, without the demand that this person or situation remain frozen in time to maintain your sense of security. When you truly let go, you can engage more fully, more authentically, more compassionately, because your actions arise from love itself, rather than from fear disguised as love. The Buddha often used the metaphor of a tightly clenched fist to illustrate attachment. When your hand is clenched in a tight fist, you can hold on to nothing. Your palm is closed, unable to receive. Your fingers are rigid, unable to touch gently. Your entire arm becomes tense, the effort spreading through your body. Now imagine opening that fist slowly, relaxing your fingers, turning your palm upward. In this open position, you can receive what comes. You can hold things lightly. You can release things easily. This is the posture of non-attachment. Buddhist wisdom teaches us to distinguish between wholesome and unwholesome desire. Wholesome desire motivates you toward growth, compassion, and understanding. It is the aspiration to awaken, to benefit others, to live with integrity. This kind of desire does not create suffering because it is not rooted in craving or aversion. It arises naturally from your deepest wisdom and flows in harmony with the nature of things. Unwholesome desire, by contrast, arises from a sense of lack, from the belief that you are incomplete without certain experiences or possessions, from the fear that you will not be okay unless specific conditions are met. The path to liberation involves learning to recognize the difference between these two types of desire. When you feel a strong pull toward something, pause and investigate. Is this arising from wisdom or from craving? Is it aligned with your deepest values or driven by fear? Is it flowing naturally with circumstances or forcing against the grain of reality? These questions, asked with honesty and repeated over time, gradually reveal the patterns of clinging that create your suffering. Meditation practice provides the laboratory where this investigation unfolds. As you sit in stillness, observing the constant arising and passing of sensations, emotions, and thoughts, you begin to see desire in action. You notice the subtle reaching toward pleasant experiences, the subtle pushing away from unpleasant ones. You observe how this reaching and pushing creates tension in your body, agitation in your mind. And in moments of clear seeing, you discover that you can simply witness desire without acting on it, without identifying with it, without believing its story that your happiness depends on satisfying its demands. This does not happen all at once. The habit of grasping is ancient and deep. It has been reinforced through countless moments of practice, perhaps through countless lifetimes if we take seriously the Buddhist teaching of rebirth. But with patient, persistent practice, the grip gradually loosens. You find yourself able to want something without being enslaved by that wanting. You develop the capacity to engage fully in your life while holding your plans and preferences lightly. You discover that the peace you have been seeking does not come from getting what you want, but from the freedom to be present with whatever is. Deep trust in the journey, surrendering to life's wisdom. When you stop resisting what is, everything finds its natural place. This is perhaps the most challenging teaching to truly understand, because it contradicts everything our culture teaches us about success and achievement. We are told that life is a battlefield, that we must fight for what we want, that only the strongest and most determined survive and thrive. But the Buddha discovered a different truth. Life is not a battle to be won, but a dance to be joined, not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be experienced. Life is already organized in ways that support your evolution, though not always in ways your ego prefers. The universe operates according to principles far more vast and complex than your individual preferences can comprehend. Every event that occurs, pleasant or unpleasant, contains within it the seeds of learning, the possibility of awakening, the invitation to deeper wisdom. When you trust this, when you genuinely trust that life is not randomly happening to you but unfolding with you, through you, as you, everything shifts. Every event, every loss, every unexpected encounter, every frustrating delay carries deeper meaning when viewed through the lens of wisdom. The job that did not work out may have saved you from a path that would have taken you far from your true calling. The relationship that ended painfully may have been exactly the teacher you needed to help you grow beyond patterns that were keeping you small. The illness that forced you to slow down may have been life's way of redirecting you before you burned yourself out completely. This is not magical thinking or naive optimism. This is the recognition that in a universe governed by cause and effect, by the interconnection of all things, by the law of karma, nothing happens in isolation. Every condition you encounter is the result of countless previous conditions. Every action you take creates ripples that extend far beyond your ability to perceive. When you trust this vast web of causation, you begin to see that what appears as random chaos is actually an intricate pattern, too complex for your limited perspective to fully comprehend, but nonetheless operating with its own profound intelligence. Consider the metaphor of a leaf floating on a river. The leaf does not control the current. It cannot decide where the river will take it. If the leaf tried to swim upstream or cling to the riverbank, it would exhaust itself in futile struggle. But when the leaf simply floats, remaining present, trusting the current, the river carries it effortlessly. It moves around obstacles, navigates through rough water, and eventually arrives exactly where it needs to be. This is how to live with trust. The leaf is not passive. It responds to the current, adjusting its position, sometimes spinning, sometimes gliding smoothly. It remains present to each moment's experience, without projecting stories about where it should be going or how the journey should look different. This is the balance between surrender and engagement that Buddhist practice cultivates. You do not abandon your responsibilities or stop making choices. You simply stop the exhausting effort to control outcomes that were never yours to control in the first place. Trusting the journey means accepting that you do not always know what is best for you. Your ego has preferences, certainly, but your ego's vision is limited by its fears, its conditioning, its narrow focus on immediate comfort and security. Your deeper wisdom, your Buddha nature, sees with much clearer eyes. It recognizes that growth often requires discomfort, that healing may involve pain, that the path to your highest good does not always look like what you think you want. The teaching of karma provides a framework for understanding this trust. Karma means action, and the law of karma simply states that actions have consequences. Wholesome actions, rooted in generosity, compassion, and wisdom, tend to produce beneficial results. Unwholesome actions, rooted in greed, hatred, and delusion, tend to produce harmful results, but these results do not appear instantaneously or in ways that are always obvious. Some seeds planted today may not bear fruit for years or lifetimes. Some fruits you are experiencing now may be the result of seeds planted long ago. When you understand karma, you realize that what comes to you is not random or unfair. It is the natural unfolding of causes you have set in motion, combined with the countless other causes and conditions that make up the vast web of existence. This understanding brings responsibility without guilt, effort without anxiety. You take care with your actions because you understand they matter, they have consequences, they shape your experience. But you also relax your desperate grasping because you understand that many factors influence outcomes, not just your individual will. Trust does not mean you stop taking action. It means you act from a different place, from wisdom rather than fear, from clarity rather than confusion. You make choices based on your values and understanding. Then you release your attachment to specific outcomes. You do your best and trust that whatever results is exactly what is needed for your continued awakening. This is the middle way the Buddha taught, the path between the extremes of indulgence and harsh asceticism, between passive acceptance and aggressive striving. When you develop this kind of trust, obstacles become teachers, delays become opportunities, losses become doorways to freedom. This is not about pretending that difficulties do not hurt or that you should not feel grief when something precious ends. Buddhist practice does not require you to suppress your emotions or pretend that everything is wonderful when it clearly is not. Rather, it invites you to meet whatever arises with awareness, with compassion, with the understanding that this too is part of the path, this too carries wisdom, this too will transform and pass. Inner silence, the gateway to what is yours. In noise, you only react. Your mind jumps from one stimulus to the next, pulled by desires, pushed by aversions, lost in the endless commentary about how things should be different. This reactivity keeps you trapped in patterns of suffering because you never pause long enough to see clearly, to hear the deeper wisdom that exists beneath the surface of your busy mind. You operate from habit, from conditioning, from the accumulated momentum of countless previous reactions, never truly free, never truly choosing, never truly present. In silence, you listen. Real silence is not merely the absence of external sound. It is the quieting of the internal noise, the endless stream of judgments, comparisons, stories, and plans that fills your mind from morning until night. Inner silence is the sacred space where what belongs to you can find you, where your true nature can reveal itself, where the wisdom of the present moment can speak. Inner silence emerges not from forcing your thoughts to stop, but from changing your relationship with thinking itself. Through meditation, you learn to observe thoughts without getting caught in their content, to notice the space between thoughts, to rest in the awareness that exists before thinking begins. This awareness is always present, always peaceful, always clear. It is your fundamental nature, what Buddhism calls your Buddha nature, the awakened quality that exists within every being. When you fall silent, the universe begins to speak to you, not in words, usually, but in the direct experience of presence, in sudden insights that arise from nowhere, in the intuitive knowing that guides you more reliably than all your planning and strategizing. This is not mystical or supernatural. It is simply what becomes available when you stop filling every moment with mental noise, when you create space for wisdom to emerge. The practice of meditation is essentially the practice of creating and sustaining inner silence. You sit in stillness, directing your attention to a simple object like the breath, and you observe what happens. Thoughts arise, pulling your attention away. Emotions surface, demanding your engagement. Sensations in the body cry out for attention, and each time, gently, without judgment, you return to the simplicity of the breath, to the present moment, to the silence beneath all the noise. This is not easy, especially at first. Your mind has spent decades, perhaps lifetimes, believing that constant thinking is necessary for survival. It will resist this invitation to silence. It will produce an endless stream of supposedly important thoughts, urgent worries, fascinating stories, all designed to pull you back into its familiar patterns. But if you persist, returning again and again to the breath, to the body, to the simple presence of this moment, the noise gradually quiets. In that quietness, you begin to hear things you could not hear before. You notice the subtle wisdom of your body, which often knows what you need long before your thinking mind catches up. You recognize patterns in your behavior that have been running unconsciously for years. You sense the natural flow of circumstances, the doors that are opening and closing in your life. You feel the difference between actions arising from clarity and actions arising from compulsion. Creating moments of presence in daily life extends this practice beyond formal meditation. You can practice presence while washing dishes, fully attending to the sensation of warm water on your hands, the smell of soap, the sight of bubbles forming. You can practice presence while walking, feeling each foot make contact with the earth, noticing the subtle shift of weight from heel to toe. You can practice presence in conversation, truly listening to the other person rather than planning your next response. These moments of presence are not separate from your life. They are the essence of truly living. When you are present, you are not lost in regret about the past or anxiety about the future. You are here, now, fully available to the only moment that ever exists. And in this availability, what is yours can find you. Opportunities that you would have missed while lost in thought become visible. Connections that you would have overlooked while preoccupied with your own concerns become possible. Wisdom that you would have drowned out with mental noise becomes audible. Listening to your body, emotions, and soul requires this quality of silent attention. Your body communicates constantly through sensations, but you miss most of these messages because you are too busy thinking. Your emotions carry important information about your relationship with experience, but you suppress or ignore them because they seem inconvenient or uncomfortable. Your deepest wisdom, what some call the soul or spirit, speaks in whispers that can only be heard in silence. The Buddha understood that inner silence is not passive emptiness, but dynamic fullness. When the mind is quiet, you are not absent or unconscious. You are supremely present, aware of everything with crystal clarity, yet not caught in anything, not identified with anything, not compelled by anything. This is the freedom that meditation cultivates, the liberation that comes not from changing your circumstances, but from transforming your relationship with experience itself. The law of invisible merit, energetic resonance, and natural arrival. What belongs to you does not need to be stolen or forced. This truth stands in stark contrast to the competitive, scarcity-based worldview that dominates modern culture. We are taught that life is a competition, that resources are limited, that if someone else has something you want, You must take it from them or miss your chance. But Buddhist wisdom reveals a different reality, one governed not by competition but by resonance, not by force but by natural alignment. What comes to you arrives through energetic resonance, not violence or coercion. This is the law of karma operating at its most subtle level. The universe responds not to your words or even your conscious intentions, but to your energy, your decisions, your internal coherence. When your actions align with wisdom, with compassion, with truth, you create conditions that naturally attract beneficial circumstances. When your actions arise from greed, hatred, or delusion, you create conditions that naturally produce suffering. Think of this like tuning a musical instrument. When a guitar string is properly tuned, it will resonate in harmony with other strings tuned to complementary notes. No force is required for this resonance to occur. It happens naturally because of the alignment of frequencies. Similarly, when your life is aligned with wisdom, with your deepest values, with the natural flow of things, what you need begins to appear naturally, not through desperate manipulation, but through this quality of resonance. The principle of karma operates here with beautiful simplicity and profound implications. Karma is not a system of cosmic punishment and reward, though it is often misunderstood this way. It is simply the recognition that actions have consequences, that the quality of your intentions and behaviors shapes the quality of your experience. When you sow compassion through your words and deeds, you create conditions that tend to produce understanding in your life. When you sow truth, speaking honestly and living with integrity, you create conditions that tend to produce clarity. When you sow peace in your own heart, letting go of resentment and cultivating contentment, you create conditions that tend to produce presence. This is not magical thinking or wishful hoping. It is the recognition that your internal state profoundly influences how you perceive and interact with the world, and how the world responds to you. When you are centered in peace, you notice peaceful aspects of reality that anxiety would blind you to. When you are rooted in generosity, opportunities to give and receive flow more easily. When you are established in wisdom, you naturally make choices that lead toward greater freedom. The invisible merit you create through wholesome actions accumulates silently, often invisibly, beneath the surface of your daily life. You may practice meditation for months without experiencing any dramatic shifts, yet something is changing at a deep level, rewiring your brain, transforming your relationship with experience. You may cultivate compassion in your interactions with others, receiving little recognition or thanks, yet this practice is shaping your heart, making you capable of more profound connection and understanding. What the Buddha called kusala, wholesome or skillful action, creates conditions for happiness and awakening. What he called akusala, unwholesome or unskillful action, creates conditions for suffering and continued delusion. But these consequences do not appear like magic or divine judgment. They arise, naturally, inevitably, from the way reality operates, from the interconnection of all things, from the simple fact that how you show up in the world matters. You cannot game this system or manipulate it through superficial good behavior while maintaining hidden resentments and selfish motivations. The universe responds to your authentic energy, not your public performance. This is both liberating and demanding. It means you cannot fake your way to genuine peace. It also means that every moment of authentic practice, every sincere gesture of kindness, every honest confrontation with your own delusions matters deeply, even when no one is watching. The teachings on karma emphasize intention above all else. The Buddha said that karma is intention, volition, the mental factor that propels action. This means that the moral quality of an action depends primarily on the state of mind from which it arises, not merely on its external consequences. An act of generosity motivated by the desire to be praised creates different karma than the same external act motivated by genuine compassion. An act that benefits someone else but arises from resentment or obligation creates different karma than one arising from love. This focus on intention places tremendous responsibility on you to know your own mind, to investigate your motivations honestly, to cultivate wholesome mental states and purify unwholesome ones. But it also offers tremendous freedom because it means that your inner work, invisible to others, is the most important work you can do. Every moment you spend cultivating mindfulness, developing compassion, investigating the truth of your experience, you are planting seeds that will bear fruit in ways you cannot predict or control, but can trust will benefit you and all beings. What is yours comes not because you manipulated circumstances to favor you, but because you aligned yourself with the way things actually work, with the natural principles that govern existence. This alignment requires patience because karmic fruits ripen in their own time, not according to your preferred schedule. It requires faith because you often cannot see the connection between your practice and its results. It requires wisdom to distinguish between genuine alignment and ego's clever imitations. But when you truly understand this principle, a great burden lifts from your shoulders. You do not need to force, manipulate, or control. You simply need to act with integrity, to practice with sincerity, to trust the natural unfolding of causes and conditions, signs of what does not belong to you. If you must fight continuously to keep something in your life, it is not truly yours. This does not mean that relationships and circumstances require no effort or attention. Everything in the conditioned world requires some maintenance. But there is a difference between the healthy effort that flows naturally from care and commitment and the exhausting struggle to force something to be what it is not, to keep something that is naturally dissolving. If you find yourself pretending to be someone other than who you are in order to be loved, accepted, or valued, you are not in a situation that truly belongs to you. Authentic belonging never requires you to abandon your truth. It welcomes you as you are, with all your imperfections and peculiarities, and loves you not despite these qualities but including them. When you must constantly perform, constantly prove yourself, constantly hide your true nature, you are exhausting yourself to maintain an illusion. If you must lie to yourself to maintain a situation, telling yourself stories that contradict your direct experience, ignoring your intuition, overriding your body's wisdom, you are forcing something that does not align with your path. Self-deception is one of the most painful forms of suffering because it separates you from your own truth. The mind is capable of extraordinary rationalization, of explaining away clear evidence, of maintaining elaborate constructions to avoid facing what it fears. But beneath all these stories, you know, your body knows, your heart knows, and eventually, if you are willing to be honest, your mind can know too. What truly belongs to you nourishes rather than exhausts you. This does not mean it is always easy or comfortable. Growth requires challenge, and sometimes what is truly beneficial feels difficult or uncomfortable as it stretches you beyond your current limits. But there is a felt difference between the discomfort of growth and the depletion of trying to force something that does not fit. Growth discomfort has an aliveness to it, an energy, even when it is challenging. Forced effort has a deadness to it, a grinding quality that drains your vitality. What truly belongs to you accepts you as you are. It does not demand that you be perfect, that you have no flaws, that you never make mistakes. It meets you in your humanity with all your beautiful imperfections and says, yes, you belong here. This acceptance does not mean there is no room for growth or change. Real love inspires growth, but it does so through invitation rather than demand, through support rather than criticism, through seeing your potential and helping you toward it rather than rejecting who you currently are. What truly belongs to you comes with a quality of peace, even when it also brings challenge. There is an underlying rightness to it, a sense that this is where I am meant to be, or this is what I am meant to be doing, even when the path is not easy. This peace does not arise from external circumstances being perfectly arranged to your preferences. It arises from inner alignment, from the recognition that you are living in integrity with your deepest values and truth. The Buddha taught a principle called Yoniso Manasikara, which can be translated as wise attention or careful consideration. It means paying attention in a way that leads toward wisdom rather than toward suffering. When you practice wise attention with respect to the situations and relationships in your life, you begin to recognize these signs clearly. You notice when you are clinging to something that is naturally dissolving. You recognize when you are pretending in order to maintain approval. You feel when you are exhausting yourself to force something that does not align with your path. This recognition can be painful. It is not easy to admit that you have invested years in a career that does not truly fit you, or that a relationship you cherish is built on pretense rather than authentic connection, or that a dream you have been pursuing so desperately is not actually aligned with your deepest wisdom. The ego resists these recognitions fiercely because they threaten its constructions, its stories about who you are and what your life should look like. But there is immense freedom on the other side of this recognition. When you finally acknowledge what is not truly yours, when you stop forcing and fighting and pretending, space opens for what is genuinely aligned to enter your life. This does not always happen immediately or in ways you expect. Sometimes there is a period of emptiness, of uncertainty, of not knowing what comes next. But if you can trust this process, if you can remain present in the discomfort of not knowing, what is truly yours will find its way to you. The teachings on right livelihood, right speech, and right action provide guidance for recognizing alignment. Right livelihood is work that does not harm yourself or others, that contributes something valuable to the world, that allows you to maintain your integrity. If your work requires you to compromise your values, to harm others, or to constantly violate your own sense of what is right, it is not truly aligned with your path, regardless of how much it pays or how impressive it looks to others. Right speech is communication that is truthful, helpful, timely, and spoken with a kind heart. If your relationships require you to lie, to manipulate, to use words that wound rather than heal, these relationships are not truly yours. Authentic connection is built on truth, on the willingness to be vulnerable, on the courage to say what needs to be said with both honesty and compassion. Right action is behavior that does not cause harm, that respects the well-being of all beings, that flows from wisdom and compassion. If maintaining a situation in your life requires actions that violate your deepest sense of what is right, that hurt others or yourself, that are rooted in greed or hatred or delusion, this situation does not truly belong to you. The peace you seek, cannot be built on a foundation of harmful action, no matter how well disguised or rationalized. Practical application. Living the teaching. The teaching that what is yours will come becomes real, not through intellectual understanding, but through application in your daily life. Every moment offers an opportunity to practice. Instead of worrying about the future, you can bring your attention fully to what is here now. What is this moment actually asking of you? Not what do you wish it were asking, not what do you think it should be asking, but what is it actually presenting? This is where your power lies, in responding to what is, rather than being lost in stories about what might be. Instead of forcing outcomes, you can trust the process. This trust is not passive or naive. You still take action, make plans, work toward your goals. But you hold these plans lightly, remaining open to the possibility that life has something different in mind, something perhaps even better than what you imagined. You act from clarity about your values and intentions, then you release your grip on specific outcomes, trusting that whatever results is what is needed for your continued growth. Instead of fearing loss, you can accept impermanence as the fundamental nature of reality. Everything that begins will end. Everyone you love will eventually be separated from you by distance or death. Every pleasant experience will transform into something else. This is not pessimism or nihilism. This is simply seeing clearly. And paradoxically, when you truly accept impermanence, you become more capable of appreciating and savoring each moment as it occurs, knowing its preciousness precisely because it will not last forever. Instead of chasing externally for validation, worth, or happiness, you can listen internally to the wisdom that resides in your own heart. This does not mean you ignore others' perspectives or refuse guidance. It means you develop the capacity to discern for yourself what is true, what is aligned, what is right for you. You become your own authority, not in an arrogant way, but in the sense of taking full responsibility for your life and your choices. When you change within, the outer world begins to reflect your inner truth. This is not magic, but simply the natural result of how perception and reality interact. When you are at peace internally, you notice peaceful aspects of reality that anxiety made invisible. When you are aligned with your values, opportunities that match this alignment become visible. When you release attachment, what is truly yours can find its way to you without the obstacles your grasping created. The practice of meditation provides the foundation for all of this. In meditation, you learn to observe your mind, to recognize patterns of grasping and aversion, to rest in awareness without getting caught in the content of experience. These skills, developed through formal practice, gradually extend into every aspect of your life. You become capable of remaining present during difficult conversations. You notice when you are about to react from old conditioning and make a wiser choice. You recognize the difference between true intuition and fearful imagination. The cultivation of the Brahma-viharas, the four immeasurables, supports this transformation powerfully. Loving kindness, the wish for all beings to be happy, softens your heart and opens you to connection. Compassion, the wish for all beings to be free from suffering, helps you respond to difficulty with care rather than judgment. Empathetic joy, the ability to rejoice in others' happiness, frees you from the poison of envy and comparison. Equanimity, the capacity to remain balanced in the face of life's ups and downs, provides stability as you navigate inevitable changes. These qualities are not abstract ideals to admire from a distance. They are capacities you can develop through practice, starting exactly where you are. You begin with yourself, offering yourself kindness when you fail, compassion when you suffer, joy when you succeed, equanimity when circumstances change. Then you extend these qualities gradually wider to loved ones, to neutral people, to difficult people, and eventually to all beings without exception. As these qualities strengthen, something shifts in how you relate to the question of what is yours. You become less concerned with getting what you want and more interested in being who you truly are. You discover that peace does not depend on external circumstances arranging themselves to your preferences. It arises from this inner alignment, this capacity to meet whatever comes with wisdom and compassion, this freedom from the desperate grasping that creates so much suffering. Closing reflection. What is yours will come, and it will come with peace. You do not need to chase frantically, compete desperately, or prove your worth endlessly. The teaching of impermanence reveals that everything is already in motion, already transforming, already finding its natural place in the vast web of interconnection. Your desperate efforts to control this flow create turbulence and suffering, while your trust in the natural unfolding brings ease and clarity. You are already enough, exactly as you are in this moment. This does not mean you are perfect or finished evolving. It means that your fundamental nature, your Buddha nature, is and always has been complete. The journey of practice is not about becoming something you are not, but about remembering what you have always been beneath the layers of conditioning, fear, and delusion that obscure your true nature. You do not need to become worthy. You simply need to remember who you are without the noise of ego, without the constant comparison, without the relentless self-judgment. You are a manifestation of the same awareness that illuminates all of existence. You are a wave in the same ocean as every other being. You are already woven into the fabric of reality itself, already belonging, already home. The profound message that what is yours will come invites you to release the exhausting effort to force life into submission. It asks you to trust something larger than your individual will, something wiser than your ego's preferences, something more compassionate than your fears. This trust develops not through belief but through experience, through the repeated discovery that when you let go, what you truly need finds its way to you. This does not mean that life becomes easy or that you never face challenges. The Buddha never promised an end to difficulty, only an end to suffering. Difficulty is the nature of conditioned existence. Pain is inevitable in a body that ages, in a world where things change, in relationships where people grow and evolve. But suffering, the mental resistance to what is, the desperate clinging to what we want, and pushing away what we do not want, this is optional. This can be released through wisdom and practice. What will you discover when you finally stop fighting against the current of your life? What doors will open when you release your grip on doors that were never meant to open for you? What peace will arise when you accept that you cannot control the universe, but you can transform your relationship with whatever the universe presents? These are not rhetorical questions. They are invitations to experiment, to test this teaching in the laboratory of your own experience. Notice what happens when you let go of trying to force an outcome. Observe the relief that comes when you stop pretending to be someone you are not. Feel the spaciousness that opens when you trust the natural unfolding of your life, rather than demanding it follow your script. The path is here, always here, in this very moment. Not in some distant future when you have finally achieved all your goals or perfected yourself. Not in some imagined past when things were supposedly better. Here, now, in the raw, messy, beautiful reality of this present experience. This is where your life is actually happening. This is where peace is available. This is where what is truly yours is waiting to be recognized. May you find the courage to let go of what was never meant to be yours. May you discover the wisdom to recognize what truly belongs to your path. May you experience the peace that comes from trusting the natural flow of existence. May you remember again and again that you are already complete, already worthy, already home. If this message has touched something true within you, I invite you to sit with it, to practice with it, to test it against your own experience. Share it with others who might need to hear it. And consider subscribing to continue this journey of exploration into the profound wisdom of Buddhist teachings. The Dharma is vast, and the path is rich with discoveries waiting to be made. May we walk it together, supporting each other in remembering what is most essential, most true, most liberating.